Hello everyone, before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from?
This contract is everything.
Drop your city or country in the comments below.
Let's move forward.
Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. Serve U.S. drinks, ape. The insult cut through the ballroom like a champagne flute snapping on marble, too loud to ignore, too ugly to pretend it didn't happen. The string quartet kept playing for a beat, then the music felt thinner, like even the violins had lost confidence. Nia Carter stood just outside the main circle of laughter, near the edge of the chandelier light. Her white off-shoulder gown looked sculpted, deliberate, elegant without begging for attention. One hand held her phone to her ear. The other rested at her side, still and steady. She didn't flinch. She didn't blink fast. She didn't give them the pleasure. On the other end of the line, her COO, Jordan Hayes, spoke with the calm urgency of someone staring at a clock that costs millions per minute. Final terms are locked, Jordan said. The $7 billion closing package is ready. Legal's upstairs with their team. We're waiting on your final sign-off before funds are released. Nia's eyes stayed forward, focused on the small group a few feet away, 3 women, 2 men, dressed like old money in private jets. They were laughing too hard, leaning close, performing their power for anyone watching. Charlotte Whitmore, blonde, 30, in a red gown that made her look like she owned the room, tilted her champagne toward Nia like it was a command. Beside her, Elise Vaughn, brunette, 29, navy dress, smile sharpened to a blade, studied Nia the way people study staff, polite, dismissive, finished. And the Whitmore brothers, Grant and Mason, stood in tuxedos, mid-30s, grinning with the relaxed cruelty of men who'd never been told no in public. They had already decided who Nia was. Charlotte stepped closer, heels clicking with entitlement. We asked for drinks, she said again, slower this time, like she was speaking to someone she didn't believe deserved normal speed. Elise laughed softly. She's on the phone, she murmured, loud enough to be heard. That's adorable. Like she's important. A few nearby guests glanced over. Some smirked. Others looked away quickly, suddenly fascinated by the condensation on their glasses. Nia breathed in once, controlled, quiet. The kind of breath you take before making a decision you won't apologize for. Jordan's voice lowered. Nia? What's going on over there? Grant's smile grew tighter, his tone dripping with fake courtesy. Ma'am, he said, this is a private event. If you're staff, the bar is on the other side. Mason added, almost cheerful, or if you're lost, we can have someone escort you out. No hard feelings. Charlotte leaned in, eyes bright with the thrill of humiliation. Put the phone down, she said, loud enough for the circle around them. We don't pay people to stand around. Nia finally turned her head slightly, just enough to look at them directly. Her expression wasn't angry. It was measured. Like someone looking at a problem and already knowing the solution. She spoke into the phone again, voice even. Jordan, she said, check one thing for me. Anything. What's the exact language in our conduct clause? Nia asked. Jordan paused, then answered like he was reading from a document he'd memorized for moments that mattered. Zero tolerance for discriminatory conduct by any principal or representative, he said. If breached, we can place the closing on hold immediately, pending review. A small silence settled around Nia because her calm had weight. And calm like that makes people nervous. Charlotte's smile flickered for half a second. Not because she understood what Nia was saying, because she couldn't understand why Nia wasn't scared. Pride stepped in to cover the crack. Charlotte turned to Elise and laughed louder. "She's threatening someone," she said. "Like she has power. That is priceless." Elise sipped her drink, eyes on Nia. "Let her pretend," she said, "sweet as poison." Grant's patience snapped just enough to show the man underneath. "Last warning," he said, his voice hardening. "If you don't comply, I'll call security." The quartet kept playing. The room kept glittering. That's what made it sick, the way cruelty wore a tuxedo and still called itself respectable. Nia didn't look at Grant. She didn't need to. She only said, into the phone, "Jordan, put the closing on hold." Jordan went still on the line. "Nia," he started. "Do not release funds," she continued, calm as a judge. "Notify counsel. Send a hold notice to every principal on their side." Jordan's voice turned razor professional. "Understood," he said. "You want this effective immediately?" Nia's eyes stayed on Charlotte's face. "Yes," she said. "Effective now." Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we're glad you're here. Now, back to Nia Carter. Nia ended the call. For a heartbeat, the ballroom tried to continue as if nothing had changed. Laughter, clinking glasses, soft music. Then Nia's phone buzzed once. And again. And again. Across from her, Grant's phone lit up in his hand. His grin didn't return. It slipped, just slightly. Like a man realizing, for the first time, that the person he tried to humiliate wasn't trapped in his room. He was trapped in hers. The first thing Malcolm Reed noticed was the sound. Not the quartet. Not the laughter. Not the soft clink of crystal. The other sound. A tiny chorus of phones vibrating in suit jackets and clutch purses, one after another, like the room had been tapped on the shoulder by reality. Malcolm was the head of staff tonight, 41, dressed in a perfectly fitted black suit that made him look like he belonged to the decor. He'd spent the last 2 hours smoothing egos, rerouting photographers, and making sure the Whitmores felt like royalty in a ballroom they didn't actually own. He saw Grant Whitmore's face change first. Grant stared at his screen as if it had insulted him. His jaw tightened. The confidence he wore so easily a minute ago started to peel at the edges. Mason leaned in. "What is it?" Grant didn't answer. He read again. Then he looked up, straight at Nia. Nia stood exactly where she had been, still framed by warm chandelier light, her white gown untouched, her posture unbent. Her phone was back at her side now, screen dark, as if the only thing she'd needed it for was already done. Charlotte was still smiling, but it had become a confused smile, the kind people use when they think they're watching a joke and suddenly realize they might be the punchline. Elise's eyes narrowed. She wasn't laughing anymore. She was calculating. Malcolm took 3 quick steps toward the Whitmores, instinctively trying to smother whatever was happening before it turned into a fire. He'd learned the gala rules: if old money frowns, staff fixes it. Immediately. "Mr. Whitmore?" Malcolm asked, voice low. "Everything okay?" Grant's eyes flicked to Malcolm like a slap. "No," he said. "Everything is not okay." Mason finally pulled out his own phone, and the color drained from his face as he read. "This can't be real." Charlotte scoffed to keep herself steady. "What is it? A spam email?" Grant held the screen closer, and Malcolm caught the subject line in bold. Closing placed on hold, immediate effect. Below it, corporate language, clean, cold, final. Funds not to be released. Signing paused pending review. Counsel notified. Charlotte blinked. Who'd she started, then stopped. Because the signature block was visible. And it wasn't a manager's name. It was the buyer's company name everyone in this room had been whispering about all week. The one bringing billions to the table. The one who could make the Whitmores look larger than life or expose them as nothing but loud heirs with fragile power. Grant's voice turned sharp. Malcolm, he said, find out who did this. Right now. Malcolm's throat tightened. He forced a smile that felt like plastic. Of course, sir. I'll. Grant cut him off. Now. Malcolm pivoted, scanning the room for damage control, for any executive he could intercept. His eyes landed on Nia again, and something about her stillness made him hesitate. She wasn't watching them like prey. She was watching them like a board member watching a failing CEO. Malcolm approached her carefully, posture professional. Ma'am, he began, there seems to be some confusion tonight. Is there? Nia asked softly. Malcolm cleared his throat. The Whitmore family is a major sponsor. This event is a charity gala, Nia said, finishing for him. Where adults raise money for causes they claim to care about, while behaving like they don't. Behind him, Charlotte's voice rose, sweet and venomous. Malcolm, don't waste time. Just have her removed. There it was again. The assumption. The permission to erase her. Grant stepped forward, phone still in his hand like evidence. You, he said to Nia, pointing, what did you do? Nia didn't react to the finger. She didn't even look offended. She looked bored. I made a decision, she said. Elise crossed her arms. You can't just walk into places like this and start making threats. Nia's gaze slid to Elise, calm as ice. Where I walk isn't your jurisdiction. Mason tried to laugh, but it sounded hollow. Okay. Enough. Malcolm, security. That word, security, was the favorite tool of people who'd never had to explain themselves. Malcolm lifted his hand, signaling discreetly to the guards near the entrance. Two men in black suits started moving in. The crowd noticed the shift. Conversations dimmed. Eyes turned. Nia remained still. The guards approached, professional faces neutral. One of them, older, looked at Nia with a flicker of uncertainty. Ma'am, the guard said, we've been asked to escort you out. Nia tilted her head slightly. By who? She asked. The guard hesitated, eyes flicking to Malcolm. Malcolm stepped in quickly. Ma'am, please, he said, as if politeness could glue this back together. If you just step aside, we can sort this out privately. Privately. That's how humiliation survives. Behind closed doors. Nia's voice stayed soft, but it carried. You want me to leave quietly, she said, so they can pretend they didn't say what they said. Charlotte rolled her eyes. Oh my God, she's making a speech. Grant's face reddened. You're not the victim here, he snapped. You're a disruption. Nia's eyes locked onto his. You don't get to name what harm looks like, she said. Especially when you're the one causing it. Mason's phone buzzed again, and he flinched. He looked down, read, then looked up at Grant. "It's legal," Mason whispered. Their counsel just replied. "They're serious." Elise stepped closer to Charlotte. "This is getting out of hand," she hissed. "Fix it." Charlotte lifted her chin, desperate to regain the stage. "Fine," she said, voice louder, rehearsed. "Listen, if you're upset, we can apologize. But you can't sabotage something that big. That's not how the world works." Nia's expression didn't change. "That's exactly how the world works," she said. "Just not for you." Malcolm's own phone buzzed. He glanced down, and his stomach dropped. A message from upstairs. From the executive suite level. "Where is Ms. Carter? Counsel is waiting." Malcolm stared at the name, then looked up at the woman in white. His mouth went dry. Because suddenly, it wasn't a question of whether she belonged. It was a question of how many people in this room were about to realize they'd been bowing to the wrong family all night. Malcolm didn't move for a full second. He just stared at the message, "Where is Ms. Carter? Counsel is waiting," as if the words might rearrange themselves into something less catastrophic. But they didn't. He looked up again at Nia, and suddenly the room felt different. The chandeliers didn't look like luxury anymore. They looked like witnesses. Nia Carter stood with the kind of stillness that didn't ask for space, it took it. Malcolm swallowed hard and stepped forward, voice quieter now, respectful in a way it hadn't been 2 minutes ago. "Ms. Carter," he said, testing the name like a key in a lock. "If you'll come with me." Grant Whitmore snapped his head around. "What did you just call her?" Charlotte's smile froze. Elise's eyes widened just enough to show fear before she smothered it with a smirk. Malcolm felt the heat on his neck from 100 watching faces. "The executive level is asking for Ms. Carter," he said, carefully. "They're expecting her." Grant stepped closer, voice sharp with wounded authority. "No. She's leaving. That's what's happening." Charlotte recovered first, she always did. "Malcolm," she said, sweet and loud, "I don't care who she is. She's causing a scene. Escort her out." The guards shifted again, uncertain. The older one, Derek, looked between Malcolm and Nia, waiting for the hierarchy to reveal itself. Because that's what security really does. They don't protect people. They protect power. Nia's eyes moved slowly across the Whitmore's faces. Then she looked at Malcolm. "Do you know what's happening right now?" Nia asked him. Malcolm tried to speak, but his throat was dry. "You're deciding who deserves dignity," Nia said, softly. "Based on who yells the loudest." Grant laughed without humor. "Oh, spare us the lecture." "And you," Nia said to Malcolm, "are about to learn what it costs." Grant stepped in front of Malcolm, trying to reassert himself physically. "Listen," he said to Nia, voice low like a threat. "You can play mystery guest all you want. But you don't come into our event and attack our family." "Your family attacked me," Nia said. "In public. With an audience." Charlotte scoffed. "We didn't attack you. We told you to do your job." Nia turned to Charlotte. "And what job was that?" she asked. Charlotte hesitated. Saying it out loud would make it uglier than laughter. Elise filled the silence. "You look like you didn't belong," Elise said, shrugging like cruelty was logic. "That's not our fault." A few people in the crowd inhaled sharply. Nia's voice stayed even. You're right, she said. It's not your fault you were taught that. But it is your fault you chose to use it. Mason tried to play mediator. Okay, he said, hands slightly raised. Let's de-escalate. You're clearly connected. We can talk upstairs. In private. Private again. Nia shook her head once. No, she said. Not upstairs. Not behind doors. Not where you get to rewrite the story. Grant's temper snapped. Security, he barked. Remove her. Derek hesitated. Malcolm's eyes darted to the message again. Grant repeated, louder. Now. That's when Derek finally spoke, calm but firm. Sir, he said, we need to confirm authority. Grant's head whipped toward him. Authority? I'm Grant Whitmore. And she is Ms. Carter, Derek said carefully, eyes flicking to Malcolm. So I'm asking, who has priority here? The crowd hummed. Phones lifted higher. Charlotte tried a new angle. Miss Carter, she said, forcing a smile, we're sorry if you were offended. But you have to understand, this is a high-profile event. That's not an apology, Nia said. Elise tilted her head. Then what do you want? Nia looked at them. I want you to say what you meant, she said. Out loud. Charlotte's smile collapsed. Excuse me? I want you to repeat it, Nia said, still calm. The word you used. The one you thought you could throw at me because you believed you'd never pay for it. A hush spread. Grant's eyes widened. No, he snapped. We're not doing this. You already did it, Nia said. I'm just refusing to let you hide it. Malcolm's phone rang. Caller ID, Jordan Hayes, COO. He answered with shaking fingers. This is Malcolm Reed. Jordan's voice came through crisp and controlled. Put Miss Carter on, he said. Not asking. Malcolm placed the phone into Nia's hand like he was handing over a crown. Nia put it to her ear. Jordan spoke quietly, urgent. Whitmore's transaction counsel and their board chair are upstairs, he said. Counsel is ready. Media's circling. Do you want us to proceed with a formal breach notice? Nia's eyes stayed on Charlotte. Yes, Nia said. Draft it. Grant's voice cracked. Wait, what? Nia lowered the phone just enough to look at him fully. This isn't a misunderstanding, she said. It's a pattern. Then she raised the phone again. And patterns get corrected. The moment she said that, the room didn't explode. It tightened. Grant tried to buy time with dignity he didn't have. Hold on, he said, palms out. Let's not escalate. You escalated, Nia said quietly. You just didn't think it counted. Charlotte's voice turned syrupy. Miss Carter, we can fix this. We had no idea. Confusion is mixing up names, Nia said. What you did was choose a story about me because it made you feel safe. Grant scoffed. Safe? We're the ones being attacked. You called me an animal, Nia said. Then you tried to have me removed like trash. Nia checked her phone. A message from Jordan, breach notice ready. Counsel awaiting your go. Grant saw the movement and panicked, switching tactics. You're risking people's jobs, he said. Vendors, employees. Now you care about employees? Nia asked. She looked at Malcolm. How many staff did you schedule tonight? Malcolm flinched. More than 40. And how many have been spoken to like objects tonight? Nia asked. Malcolm's silence answered. Charlotte laughed brittly. You're turning a party into a courtroom. You turned it into a zoo, Nia said. I'm just naming the cages. Elise stepped forward, impatient. Okay. What do you want? An apology? A donation? We can write a check. You think dignity has a price tag, Nia said. That's why you're struggling right now. Grant's phone buzzed again. Hold notice acknowledged. Whitmore principal CC'd. The word principals carved fear into his face. From the far end of the ballroom, a man in a charcoal suit moved fast, weaving between guests with purpose. Executive energy. He reached Malcolm first. Where is she? The man asked, breathless. Malcolm pointed. There. The man's eyes landed on Nia and his posture changed, respect without hesitation. Miss Carter, he said, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. I'm Daniel Mercer, transaction counsel for Whitmore Capital. We've been trying to reach you. Our board chair and principals are upstairs. They're waiting. Counsel. Upstairs. Board chair. Charlotte's face went blank. Elise's mouth opened. Grant's confidence shattered into a tight, thin panic. Daniel turned toward Grant, confusion and alarm mixing. Grant, he said, careful, what is happening? Grant forced a laugh that sounded like choking. It's nothing. Miscommunication. Nia spoke before anyone else could. Your principals used racial language toward me, she said. Then they tried to have me removed. In front of witnesses. Daniel's face stiffened. He looked at Grant like he'd just watched a man light a match near gasoline. Grant, Daniel said, please tell me that's not accurate. Grant didn't answer fast enough. Daniel checked his phone, swallowing hard. They're asking for an update, he said quietly. They want to know if the hold stays. It stays, Nia said. The ballroom went silent in a way money couldn't buy. Nia turned toward Daniel. Take me upstairs, she said. And on the way, make sure every principal who laughed tonight is in that room when we talk. Grant's eyes widened in pure terror. The elevator ride felt longer than it was. Daniel stood near the panel. Malcolm followed them in, sweat bright at his temple. Grant and Mason pushed in, insisting they needed to be present. Charlotte and Elise slipped in too, faces tight, pretending this was still a conversation they could control. Nia stood at the center like the calm eye of a storm. White gown. Shoulders back. Hands relaxed. Grant tried to buy air. Miss Carter, we can settle this without making it public. This became public when you said it out loud, Nia replied. Charlotte scoffed, voice high. You're acting like we committed a crime. You used a word designed to erase humanity, Nia said. Then you tried to erase me from the room. That's not confusion. That's a decision. The elevator chimed. They stepped onto the executive floor, quiet carpet, framed art, no chandeliers, no music, just authority. Two assistants opened double doors. Inside was a glass-walled conference room. A long table. Tablets. Folders. Lawyers hovering like surgeons. At the head sat Marlene Whitmore, silver hair, steel-gazed board chair of Whitmore Capital. Beside her were board members and the CFO. On the screen at the far end, Jordan appeared by video, sharp, controlled. Marlene stood as Nia entered. "Miss Carter," she said. "Thank you. I'm Marlene Whitmore." Nia nodded. "Ms. Whitmore." Grant stepped forward. "Aunt Marlene." Marlene raised a hand without looking at him. "Not yet." Grant froze. Daniel placed documents on the table like explosives. Marlene's gaze moved across the room, reading faces. "We received a hold notice," she said. "Triggered under your conduct clause." "Correct," Nia said. The CFO leaned forward. "Ms. Carter, we're 5 minutes from closing. A hold affects counterparties." Jordan's voice came clipped. "Funds have not been released. Temporary hold pending review, permitted under Section 11B. Grant tried to regain control. "This is absurd. We don't even know what she thinks she heard." "You want facts?" Nia asked softly. "Facts." She looked at Daniel. "Was any part of tonight recorded?" Daniel hesitated. "There are event cameras," he admitted. "And guests were filming." Marlene's expression tightened. "Grant," she said, "did you instruct security to remove Ms. Carter?" Grant's mouth opened, then closed. "Yes," he forced out. "But..." "And did Charlotte Whitmore use racial language toward Ms. Carter?" Marlene asked. Charlotte snapped up. "That is not." "Charlotte," Marlene said, flat. Charlotte's voice shrank. "It was a joke." Silence. Jordan's eyes narrowed. "It wasn't a comment," he said. "It was discriminatory conduct. Documented. Witnessed." Daniel swallowed. "The footage is clear," he admitted. "Audio too." Marlene turned back to Nia. "What would it take to remove the hold?" Nia folded her hands. "I'm not here to destroy your firm," she said. "I'm here to make sure behavior like tonight isn't rewarded with $7 billion. Grant scoffed. "So you want money? A donation?" "You keep offering checks," Nia said. "Because you think money is the only language that matters." Then she faced Marlene and the board. "I want accountability written into the deal," Nia said. "And I want it enforced." Jordan leaned forward on the screen. "We have an amendment drafted," he said. "If Ms. Carter approves, we can attach it as a binding condition to proceed." Marlene's brow furrowed. "What kind of condition?" Nia spoke like a verdict. "First, Grant Whitmore and anyone who participated tonight is removed from the deal team. Immediately." Grant shot up. "You can't." Marlene lifted a hand. "Sit." Grant sat, shaking. "Second, a monitored covenant independent compliance audit for 12 months, Nia continued. "Quarterly reporting. Penalties for violations." The CFO inhaled sharply. "Third, an opportunity fund," Nia said. "Scholarships, internships, supplier access for underrepresented founders. Public reporting." Marlene leaned back. "If we refuse?" "Then the hold becomes termination," Nia said. "And the world learns why." Daniel checked his phone and paled. "We have footage," he said quietly. "It's circulating in private finance group chats. Not mainstream yet, but moving. Marlene's eyes closed briefly, then opened, strategy replacing denial. Show us the amendment, she said. Daniel projected it. Bullet points. Clean margins. No poetry. Just consequences. Marlene read aloud, removal of Grant Whitmore and implicated parties, effective immediately. Grant looked like he was reading his own obituary. The CFO tried to soften it. Ms. Carter, an auditor covenant is unusual. So is being called an animal at a charity gala, Nia replied. Charlotte whispered, we said we were sorry. You said you were sorry because the room changed, Nia said. Not because your heart did. Grant snapped, this is extortion, she's holding the deal hostage over a stupid comment. Jordan's voice turned colder. It wasn't a comment. It was a breach. Daniel's phone buzzed again. A clip leaked beyond the private chat, he said. It's being reposted. Still mostly in industry circles. Marlene looked at Nia. If we sign, will you agree to a joint statement? Acknowledging harm, outlining corrective measures so closing can proceed without further escalation? I'll agree to a statement, Nia said. But it won't be a cover-up. Marlene nodded. Understood. Then Marlene turned to Grant. You are stepping away from this deal, she said. Effective immediately. Grant's face went slack. Marlene turned to Charlotte. You will issue a direct apology, she said. Under counsel supervision. Recorded for accuracy. Charlotte's lips trembled. Recorded? Yes, Marlene said. So there's no rewriting later. Elise tried to speak. This is. Elise, Marlene cut in, you are no longer representing this family in any capacity. Elise stiffened as if slapped. Jordan's voice steadied. If the board accepts the amendment, we can lift the hold immediately and proceed to signing. Marlene looked at Nia. Do we have an agreement? Nia let the room feel the weight of needing her. Then she nodded once. Yes, she said. If you mean it. The signing didn't happen with applause. It happened with silence, thick, expensive silence, the kind that only exists in rooms where people know a single sentence can move markets. Pens clicked. Ink met paper. The sound was small, but it carried like thunder in a vault. Jordan's voice came through the speaker. Once executed, counsel will release the lift-hold notice, he said. Funds remain staged until confirmation is logged. Marlene looked at Nia. We are accepting your conditions, she said. Now we handle the second part. The part that actually matters, Nia replied. Marlene gestured. Bring communications. Bring a recorder. Official. Grant stiffened. You can't be serious. Grant, Marlene said, flat, you're done. The only reason you're still here is because I'm trying to prevent a lawsuit and a headline. A communications director entered with a tablet and a small recorder. An assistant followed with a folder, statement, draft. We need a clear apology, the comms director began carefully. And an outline of corrective actions so we can. Contain, Nia finished calmly. I know. But you don't control this. You answer it. The recorder went on. A small red light blinked. Marlene pointed at Charlotte. Stand. Charlotte rose, unsteady, smoothing her red gown like it could restore her power. Say your name, Marlene ordered. And say what you did. Charlotte's eyes flicked to Grant for rescue. He couldn't look at her. My name is Charlotte Whitmore, she said, voice shaky. Go on, Marlene said. Charlotte faced Nia. Ms. Carter. I made an unacceptable comment toward you at the gala. It was racist. And it was cruel. Marlene didn't soften. Say what you tried to do after. Charlotte swallowed. I pushed to have her removed, she admitted. I wanted her gone. I thought I could decide who belonged. Nia's voice came low, velvet sharp. And who taught you that you could? Charlotte flinched. Tears rose, more consequence than empathy. Marlene slid the prepared remarks forward. Now read the commitments. Charlotte read, voice cracking. Whitmore Capital will implement an independent compliance audit, quarterly reporting, and a zero-tolerance policy enforced by external review. We are establishing a $100 million opportunity fund for scholarships, internships, and supplier access for underrepresented founders, with public transparency. Elise muttered, bitter, this is a circus. Elise, Marlene snapped, you are not speaking. You are not part of this. Then Marlene faced Grant. Now you. Grant stood slowly, pride battling panic. I'm Grant Whitmore, he said, voice strained. I abused my position. I tried to have Ms. Carter removed. I was wrong. Nia looked at him. Meaning isn't the standard, she said. Impact is. Marlene's voice turned final. And you are stepping away from this firm's public representation immediately. Jordan's voice cut through. Once the apology is recorded, we lift the hold and proceed. The comms director turned to Nia. Ms. Carter, would you like to add a statement? Nia looked at the red light. I accept accountability, she said. Not excuses. Tonight showed how quickly power turns cruel when it thinks nobody will challenge it. I'm not here to punish a family. I'm here to make sure this industry can't hide behind chandeliers and donations while treating people as less than human. She paused. Dignity isn't negotiable, Nia said. And it's not something you earn by being wealthy. It's something you owe because you're alive. The hold lifted in the most unromantic way possible, an email timestamp. Jordan's voice came steady. Lift hold notice has been issued. Counsel confirmed receipt. Funds staged. Proceed to closing upon verification. Daniel exhaled like he'd been underwater. The CFO's shoulders loosened. Nia didn't relax. She focused on follow-through. Daniel slid the execution copy to Nia. Once you sign, we proceed. Nia didn't take the pen yet. She looked at Marlene. Before I sign, I want 2 operational commitments confirmed. Marlene lifted her chin. Name them. First, your vendor and event operations, Nia said. Training, escalation protocols, and protection from donor bullying. Put it in writing as an enforceable addendum. Daniel nodded quickly. We can attach a vendor code of conduct addendum. Jordan added, we have a template anti-bias protocol, escalation chain, penalties. Marlene's jaw tightened, then she nodded. Agreed. Nia turned toward Derek, the older guard near the door. Second him. Derek straightened, startled. He paused, Nia said. He questioned authority. That's what safety is supposed to look like. I want him compensated, Nia continued, and I want your security contractor bound to the new escalation policy. No removals based on donor demand alone. Daniel nodded. We'll issue a written directive tonight and require contractor compliance. We can authorize a bonus to be processed within 48 hours. Marlene looked to Derek, then back to Nia. Agreed. Derek's eyes flickered, gratitude, disbelief, then he lowered his gaze again, professional, but no longer invisible. Nia finally took the pen and signed, clean, steady. Daniel collected the page like it was sacred. Jordan's voice softened just slightly. Execution confirmed. Funds release sequence begins upon counsel verification. The comms director returned with a tablet. Draft is ready. We can publish within the hour. Nia read it, then handed it back with 2 fingers. This reads like you're sorry you got caught. The comms director swallowed. We were trying to contain, Nia finished. I know. Try truth. Marlene asked, what do you want it to say? Name what happened, Nia said. Name what you're doing. Name that it happened at a charity event so people understand money doesn't equal morals. Grant, smaller now, whispered, you're going to destroy us. Nia turned. No, she said. I'm going to stop you from destroying other people. Charlotte's voice shook. If this goes public, everyone will hate us. Then let it teach you something, Nia replied. Nia added a short paragraph to the statement, clear, sharp, impossible to twist. Publish it, she said. Daniel's phone buzzed immediately. Inquiries are coming in, he muttered. Marlene's face tightened, then steadied. We answer, she said. We don't hide. Nia stood, smoothing her gown once like brushing dust off after walking through fire. Malcolm moved to open the door for her. Nia paused beside him. Tonight, she said quietly, you learned something. Malcolm swallowed. Yes. What did you learn? Nia asked. That I shouldn't need a title to treat someone with respect, he said, voice cracking. Nia nodded once. Good. Because next time, you won't have one to save you. The statement reached the world before Nia reached the ground floor, not as a global spectacle, but as a fast-moving current through finance circles, group chats, and local feeds that knew exactly what 7 billion meant. Downstairs, the ballroom still shimmered champagne, chandeliers, donor smiles carefully curated for photos. But you could feel the shift even before anyone said a word. Conversations thinned. Smiles started to look rehearsed. People checked screens with the same urgency they used for market alerts. Nia stepped out of the elevator and the room's temperature changed without a thermostat moving. A cluster near the bar fell quiet. Someone's laugh died mid-breath. A woman in diamonds pretended to adjust her bracelet. A man in a tuxedo stared down at his phone like it had suddenly become too heavy. Is that her? Someone whispered near the step and repeat. That's Nia Carter, another voice answered. That's the buyer. The words traveled faster than music ever could. Nia walked through the ballroom without looking for approval. She didn't glide for drama. She didn't pause for stares. She moved like a person who had stopped needing rooms to accept her. Charlotte stood near a pillar in her red gown, surrounded by people who weren't quite friends anymore, more like spectators waiting to see if she'd crumble. Her mascara threatened to run, but she fought it, chin lifted, trying to keep her name from collapsing with her face. Grant stood beside her, jaw tight, eyes hollow. He looked like someone who'd spent his whole life assuming doors would open and had just learned they could slam. Elise was gone. She had disappeared the way people do when they realize proximity is now a liability. Marlene entered the ballroom a minute later, expression controlled but exhausted. The donor class responded the way it always does to true authority, not with love, but with silence. She found Nia near the edge of the dance floor and stopped at a respectful distance. "Ms. Carter," Marlene said. "Closing is complete. Funds are moving." Nia nodded once. "Good." Marlene hesitated, then admitted the truth that cost her something. "You could have terminated. You didn't." "I didn't come to burn the building," Nia said. "I came to fix the exits." "The backlash will be intense," Marlene said quietly. "Then let it be instructive," Nia replied. Across the room, Charlotte's circle began to break apart. A woman who had been smiling at her earlier suddenly found an urgent reason to leave. A man who had laughed at her jokes turned his back, suddenly allergic to association. That's how privilege behaves when it's finally under light. It protects itself first. Charlotte's eyes found Nia, and for a moment the hatred vanished. All that remained was fear of being seen clearly. She took a step forward like she wanted to speak, then stopped. Apologies are harder when you used to believe they were optional. Grant shifted as if to block her habit, then froze. He didn't know where to place himself anymore. His name no longer functioned as armor. Nia didn't approach them. She didn't need a final speech in the middle of their ruin. The real ending had already been written into a contract, into a counsel-supervised recording, into a public statement that didn't pretend this was confusion. Malcolm approached, careful. "Miss Carter," he said quietly, "the staff, they saw what happened." "Did they?" Nia asked. He nodded. "They did. And they're talking about it like it mattered." Nia's gaze moved toward the service corridor. A server held a tray and watched from a distance with cautious eyes. A bartender paused mid-pour. An event assistant stood near the wall, expression unreadable, like she was learning what power looks like when it doesn't scream. Nia walked toward them. The crowd made space instinctively, as if her calm had gravity. She stopped near the corridor and spoke, not performatively, not to turn them into props. Just respect. "Tonight was ugly," Nia said. "But what you saw matters. Because it proves something." They listened. "It proves dignity doesn't come from who invited you," she continued. "It comes from who you are when nobody thinks they have to be decent." She paused, letting it land. "And it proves this," she added. "When someone tries to make you feel small in public, you don't have to match their volume to win." Her eyes held theirs. "You just have to stand," Nia said. "And remember the truth. Their cruelty isn't your identity." A few faces softened. Someone blinked quickly, trying not to cry. Malcolm looked down, ashamed, but grateful the lesson wasn't delivered as punishment, it was delivered as repair. Derek stood at a distance. Nia met his eyes and nodded once. That nod said, "I saw you." Nia turned back toward the ballroom. Charlotte and Grant remained near the pillar, trapped inside their own silence. Marlene stood alone for a moment, watching her family's legacy fracture and reform in the same night. Daniel was already on his phone, managing damage that should have been avoided. The comms director typed a follow-up, now writing language that didn't hide behind chandeliers. Nia walked toward the exit. The doors opened, and cold night air pressed in, clean, honest, indifferent to wealth. Outside, a black sedan waited. Not a limousine for show. A quiet car with a driver who didn't need to ask who she was. Nia paused with one hand on the doorframe and looked back at the building, at the ballroom full of glitter and the thin line that separated civility from cruelty. Then she got in. The door closed with a soft, final sound. And as the car pulled away, city lights reflected on the window like distant stars, steady, indifferent to titles. Inside, Nia didn't smile. She didn't need to. Because justice had happened the way it often does when it's real. Quietly. Precisely. Permanently. Not with shouting. With boundaries. With paper. With the unshakable truth that no family, no fortune, no chandelier-lit room gets to decide another human being's worth. And somewhere back inside, in a ballroom that would never feel as safe again, a billionaire family finally learned what power really is. It isn't the ability to humiliate someone in public. It's the ability to face what you did when you can't pay the truth to look away.